Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you guys have not already, hit that little subscribe button and join the family. So today I wanted to do a labor and delivery story because I feel like a couple people have asked me to do a labor and delivery story. So I want to do it just to share, also with new moms, because I feel like a lot of first-time parents follow me, and a lot of my friends are having kids. And it's so funny because my friend was like, oh, like you told me that your labor was horrible, and I'm like, the contractions were horrible, but I feel like my labor overall was amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a labor and delivery story. Gianna was born July 7th 2015, and the day that I had went into labor, I was like walking all the time, and we lived on a ranch at the time, so I was walking on the ranch. And I remember, and I feel like this is kind of what triggered my labor, and that's why I'm starting here. It was 4 hours before I started like getting contractions. And I was walking, and there was two pit bulls from the next yard over. So they were on our property, and they were from the next yard or whatever, property line. I don't know what it's called. And I was just like enjoying, like I wasn't like looking in front of me. I was kind of just like looking around, looking at the trees, looking at the ground. And one of them had growled slash barked at me, and there was two of them, and then they started coming at me, and I was like, oh, hi little doggy, like da da da. But I started to walk very slowly and not run, because I know that they will chase you. So I started walking, and I started panicking because I was like, I might have to climb in a tree, and like all these pear trees are not like huge trees. They're not like an apple tree or like a tree like that. Like they're pretty tiny. So I was like, I don't know how the hell I'm gonna climb up in one of these trees, but I have to scope out a tree I'm gonna climb up in, because if they do decide to like attack me, I have to climb in a tree, something. And so I literally started dodging in and out of trees. Like I started weaving, and the further I got in, the dogs ended up not like pursuing me, not chasing me. Thank goodness. That's a story of its own. But 4 hours later, fast forward, I started getting like contractions. And I remember that the doctor said not to come in unless they were like 5 minutes apart or something like that, or 8 minutes apart or something. Until they were like, you basically cannot breathe and talk through them, that's when you come in. I started getting contractions, we started timing them, and I still have Gianna's little time card. We literally started writing down all my times of contractions. And so, oh, excuse me, I started getting them, I want to say like every 10 minutes. We were like 10 minutes apart, 11 minutes apart, like, and when they started getting more consistent, we were like, okay, like these are getting closer. Stefan was like, do you want to go in? And I was like, I don't really want to go in right now, because they're not as close, and I'm not super duper in pain. So we tried to go to sleep, and when I was in bed, I just could not do it. Like I was like, this is so uncomfortable, it's hurting me, I can't do it. And so this was July the 6th when all this happened. So I was basically like the night of July 6th. I was like, I cannot go to sleep. Like this is literally hurting me. And he was like, do you want to go in? And I was like, yes, let's go in. It's time to go. So obviously I had all my stuff ready and packed. I was 40 weeks and 3 days. She was supposed to be a July 4th baby, and she ended up coming July 7th. So we packed all of our stuff, we got in the car, and we ended up going to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, to check in the front, he basically was like, oh yeah, like you're gonna get checked in. I didn't go to labor and delivery, I went to the emergencies, because we were first time parents. We didn't know, I didn't even know that there was an entrance for labor and delivery, which yeah, there is. So he was just like, okay, yeah, just go ahead and have a seat, labor and delivery will be here soon. And he was like, is this your first child? And I was like, yeah. He was older, and I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah, like you'll be here for a while, go ahead, have a seat. And I was just like, dang, okay. And so I sat down and I waited for them to come. They came in a little wheelchair and like wheeled me away. I want to say it maybe took like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. They came and got me, and they wheeled me to labor and delivery. So when I got to labor and delivery, they're like, go ahead and just put this robe on. And they hooked me up to, after I put my robe on, they hooked me up to all these like things to make sure that I really was in labor. Basically my contractions started getting more and more intense, and I told myself that I was gonna have a natural delivery, and I just could not breathe through them, and everyone kept telling me, just breathe, just breathe. At this point, we called our parents. I called my mom because I was like, I'm in labor, like I think I'm in labor. They haven't told me yet, but my mom was like, I'm still coming, like I'm on my way. And so at this point, I literally just, like I kept telling the nurses, like, can I get some type of medicine, like, or like painkiller? Like, I'm literally in pain, like I can't do this. And they were just like, yeah, like just breathe. And they would just like walk out. Like they were just like, I think they were checking the progression of my labor. When I walked in, I was already 3 centimeters dilated. She was like, just go ahead and pee in this cup, and like, you know, we'll like check or whatever. So I went to check your urine. So I went to go pee in the cup, and basically my water broke. So I literally a whole bunch of stuff just went whoosh when I went pee. A whole bunch of stuff, like my mucus plug fell inside the cup. I was supposed to twist the cap, put it on top. I was in so much pain. I didn't even put that cap on. I literally left it on top, and I was like, girl, I'm done. And I walked out of there, and I was like, my water just broke. A whole bunch of stuff just came out. She was like, did you like leave it in there for me? I was like, yeah, the cap's not on, and it's literally all over the place. And she was just like, no worries, like don't worry about it. And so she went to go get it. All the nurses were really nice, and I feel like they know, obviously they're labor and delivery nurses, so they know that women are like going through all this. Like I was literally like, I need medication, and they were just like, just breathe. Like none of them were like, excuse me. At this point, I want to say maybe I was there for about, at that point I was there for already like an hour and a half. And so I want to say 30 more minutes went by, 30 to 45 minutes. And they were like still checking my progress. At this point, I was like severely in pain. I couldn't do anything, and I just kept asking them like, can you guys please get me something? Like I'm in pain. And my mom kept saying, just breathe. Like my mom got there at that point. She's like, just breathe, just breathe. And I was like, I can't handle everyone telling me to breathe when I'm seriously in pain. So another 30 minutes go by, and I want to say at this point we were in there for almost like 3 hours. She was like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get you into a labor room. So they got us into a labor room, and you know, time just goes by. Like they're just watching me and like watching the baby, making sure the baby's okay. And they were like, do you want an epidural? And like I said, I wanted to do like a natural birth. Like I was like, oh, like I'm gonna have like music on, and I'm just gonna be like all like namaste. Like girl, no, that shit went out the window once I felt them contractions. I was like, give me an epidural now. So we got ready for the epidural. I ended up getting the epidural, and after that we just waited, and I did not sleep. Like I was running on pure adrenaline. So we walked into the emergency around 11, it was like 11 o'clock. And those, I want to say it was about like almost 3 hours. So they got us into a room because we had to go through all these steps in like emergency room and labor, and then they checked me and blah, 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 or whatever. So after all that, I stayed up the whole entire night. Stefan's mom was there, Stefan's sister was there. And it was like a great night. We were like laughing, like everything was great. Like we were making jokes, we were talking about her labor, and it was just like super duper awesome. So the next day comes, and they're like, oh, like you're getting closer, but it's not speeding up. So they ended up giving me that medicine that starts with a P. I don't know what it is, but it speeds up the process. So I'll probably enter the name here. And that sped up my dilation. So I remember them being like, okay, like it's time, like let us know when you feel pressure because it'll be time to push. But I had the epidural, so honestly I didn't really feel pressure, or maybe I just told myself I didn't want to feel pressure. So I remember telling the nurse like, oh, I think I'm feeling pressure. And she was just like, okay. And so she goes to check me, and she's like, oh yeah, the baby's like right there, she's coming. So they didn't stop me. Like they weren't like, oh, you can't push yet because the doctor's not here, which I know they do with a lot of people. So the nurses, we got ready to push. My mom was holding one of my feet, and Stefan's mom was holding the other one of my feet. And Stefan was like up next to my head. He was definitely not down below. He didn't want to see any of that stuff. So once I started pushing, it literally was about like 45 minutes of me pushing, which I know everyone's can go so differently. Some people are like freaking 5 pushes, the baby's out, 1 push, the baby's out. Stefan's sister pushed for 3 hours. I remember she was telling us that with her son. 3 freaking hours. So everyone's, you know, time is different. At this point, it's already like 10:45 or about, because I was pushing for 45 minutes and Gianna was born at 11:34 a.m. So the whole time I was at the hospital was about like 12 hours. So I'm gonna say I was in like active labor for about like 9 hours, if that, 8 hours. I was in like active labor. And so yeah, like 45 minutes, I pushed her out and they were like, girl, you're basically giving birth to your own baby. And they said, oh, like, do you want us to bring a mirror out so you can watch your own baby come out? And at first I was like, no, like, And then after I was like, yeah, like I do, because I was so relaxed. Everyone was calm in the room. Like the nurses were awesome. They were great. And so I ended up getting the mirror, and the doctor ended up coming in right when her head was like crowning. And so she's like, oh, here she comes. Like, girl, she has a lot of hair. It's all curly. And like, as I'm pushing, she's like, oh, look at her curly hair. And she's literally going like this to basically, it feels like she's doing it to my vagina. But Stefan told me as she was coming out, they were like massaging me and stuff like that, which obviously I didn't feel because number one, I had the epidural, and two, I was just worried about pushing the baby out. So I pushed her out and they were like, watch your baby come out. Like I watched it from the mirror. And when they took her out, like I just remember being like crying and like, I don't know, like it was just like a crazy feeling. And I have the pictures because Stefan's sister was there. So she was like taking pictures right when she came out. And so my face was like, and I was like crying. I was like, it was the ugliest face ever. And maybe I'll insert a picture. I might not insert a picture, but my face was so ugly. And like I held her for literally a split second, and then they bring her over to the weighing table and they clean her all off. They're doing all these measurements. Like it felt like an eternity. And I remember telling my mom, like, why is it taking so long? Like I literally just carried this baby for 9 months and pushed her out my vagina, and like, are you not going to like bring her over to me? And so I asked the doctor, I was like, oh, like, did I rip? And she was just like, just a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, did you sew me up? And she was like, dang, girl. Like, she didn't say that, but she was like, you have to give birth to your placenta first. And I was just so concerned about like my vagina. And so she was like, okay, just go ahead if you want to give a little push or whatever. And I literally just pushed it right out. And like, she was like, oh, dang, girl. Like, and after I gave birth, I was asking them like, oh, like I want to see what my placenta looks like. And I felt like they were so hesitant on letting me see my placenta. And I don't know if that was because they thought I was gonna try to take it or something, but I basically was like, I want to see my placenta. And they're like, oh, okay, here you go. I was like, I was like, can you come closer? Like I can't see it. Like I couldn't see it. And I'm like, what the hell? Like bring it closer so I can see my damn placenta. Like it was inside of me and my baby got nutrients from it. So I wanted to see the placenta. And so even then it was like barely close. Like I could barely see it, but I did see it. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like that's wild. And so finally after she got like all her shots and like whatever, they cleaned her up a little bit and wrapped her up, they bring her over to me, little Gigi. And it's so funny because I feel like her first picture that I like, not the first one when she was crying, because everyone like swarmed the table, like both of our moms, and they were like taking pictures of her at the newborn, like at the weighing table. And not those pictures, but when she was on my chest and I was holding her and she was like wrapped up, she looks just like me. It's hella funny. And everyone's like, oh my God, like she literally looks like a mini you. And I want to say she just like snuggled on my chest. She was so quiet. She didn't cry. And she literally just chilled with me for like 10-15 minutes, and they were like, okay, like, are you gonna breastfeed? Do you want to try? Do you want a breastfeeding counselor? And I was like, yeah, like sure, I'll take a breastfeeding counselor, like why not? Because I went in with the mindset that I was breastfeeding. So I breastfed her. She had no latch issues and she did great. Like she breastfed and she was just like phenomenal. Like all the nurses were so amazing, so kind, so sweet. And after we had like this, she was a white lady. She was so funny and we loved her. She was the best nurse ever. So her son is white. He was with an African-American girl too. And so she kept saying like, oh my God, like y'all remind me of my son and her. And she had like, you know, like that little like, I'm black underneath, maybe in my past life or whatever. And so she was like, yes, like my son's about to have a daughter too, like, and she looks just like her, or he just had a daughter and she looks just like her, like, oh my God, that's my baby. And like kept calling Gia her baby. This girl gave us literally like 5 packages of diapers. Like I was like, yes honey, like she was hooking us up. And she was just so chill, like super cool, like about everything. And yeah, like I literally loved her. And so when we had moved to our other room, there's like a labor room, and then after it's like, I don't know if that's like postpartum room or something, but they move you to another area. One of the nurses was by our room, and I was talking to like all my family that came to visit about like how funny she was and how she kept just being like, oh, that's my baby and blah, blah, blah. And she basically went and like told her like, oh, like she literally loves you. And so I think you need to go be her nurse. Even though she was a labor nurse, she still came over to like the postpartum area and was still my nurse. She was like, oh, I heard that y'all was talking about me and you loved me. And I was dying. I was like, this girl is like the one. And so I saved her name in my phone because I was like, what is your name? Like, I'm leaving you the best review. And I left her an awesome review. And yeah, she was great. Like, I literally loved her, and I'm fingers crossed hoping that she's still there. And I'm like, girl, do you remember me? And I know she's probably not, because she's gonna be like, girl, you know how many babies I deliver? Like, stop. That's basically it for my labor and delivery story, guys. If you guys would like to see any other videos, definitely comment down below and let me know what you guys would like to see. And that's basically it. Don't forget to hit that little subscribe button before you guys leave and join the family, because we are growing. Once I get to 1,000, we are definitely going to be doing a giveaway for you guys. I appreciate every single one of you who are supporting, commenting, and just like being able to like engage with me. Like, that's so awesome. So shout out to all you new mommies who have subscribed and just new supporters. Again, thank you guys so much for watching and so much for supporting, and I'll definitely see you guys in the next video. Bye.